Hi, hello. I know I've been uploading like a lot of stupid bullshit to the channel lately, but I promise this is like the last offshoot thing. Just because I do this every year where I kind of just spill my thoughts out about E3. But this year I'm going to try to make it a little like less drawn out. I usually feel the need to like... Render just finished. I have like a full real video just about done. I've just been putting off for a bit because I didn't want to release it around E3 because it would just get buried under the E3 coverage, right? It's a really long video too, and it's taken me a while to do. I do this every year where I talk about what I thought about E3, but I think this year I'm going to try to make it a little shorter, a little less drawn out, because I always feel the need to cover like everything, even if it's something I necessarily like am that interested in. So this year I'm going to try to focus a little less on that, be a little more summary-ish, and just go right into the stuff that I could really take something from. So first up was Microsoft, and I think they were one of the only like very few conferences I could say was actually really good. You know, Microsoft's been buying up a lot of studios as of late, and that kind of really paid off because they had a lot of good software to show off. They showed that Outer Worlds game that Obsidian's making, you know, because everyone wanted Obsidian to make a new Fallout game for the longest time, and now they're pretty much just doing that without the Fallout property, so that's pretty cool. They also showed the Cyberpunk, which is not a Microsoft exclusive, but they still showed that. I'm super into that game. I love like Deus Ex. It just kind of feels like CD Projekt Red, who I also love, is making just kind of their own take on that whole kind of setting. And yeah, Keanu Reeves is in it. I think everyone can agree that Keanu Reeves is like definitely one of the highlights of the whole E3. Because like usually when they have celebrities come out to talk about video games, no pun intended, but they just turn into like a lifeless robot. They're just reading lines that you can tell that they're not really into this whole like medium because they're from Hollywood. Keanu seemed like genuinely invested in it. He seemed genuinely passionate and excited to be there. You could tell he was like kind of being a little giggly, going off script a couple of times when like the audience would yell, what is someone, he was like, yeah, you get to go through breathtaking worlds, and somebody in the audience yells, you're breathtaking, and then he goes, you're breathtaking, you're all breathtaking. It was just like really endearing and adorable. Man, that was a great moment. They showed the new Ori, which I still haven't played the first one, so I really should do that sometime. They showed the new Psychonauts, which I really did not expect, because apparently Microsoft bought Double Fine. A little worried that's going to be only on Xbox now. I really hope it's not, because I don't have an Xbox One. I don't want to buy it just for one game, right? But the thing is, Microsoft seems to be kind of like more slack than other first-party publishers when it comes to publishing. Like, they'll allow certain games to be on other platforms. Like, I think they're the ones that publish Cuphead. They let that be on the Switch. They let Minecraft be on the Switch. And also other stuff later that I'll talk about, which is also pretty exciting. They didn't really show enough of it for me to get like a good read on what that thing's going to be like. It kind of just looked like prettier Psychonauts 1. Like, the combat and the platforming looked pretty similar. So, I don't know. We'll see how that thing turns out to be when it comes out. They showed a new flight simulator. I really did not expect that. They also showed a new Battletoads. I remember, didn't they like tease that last year? This looks really interesting. It's all hand-drawn, like 2D cartoony artwork. Like, I am really into that. One of the weirder things they showed that I really did not expect to ever see was a new Lego Star Wars game that covers all 9 films, and it's not like a remaster or a remake. It's a brand new ground-up game that just covers those same movies and then some. I used to love Lego Star Wars as a kid. It's just a fantastic co-op game. Sure, I'm into it. Do that. Yeah, I'll probably play that, honestly. There's also this kind of interesting looking indie game called 12 Minutes where like a guy's stuck in a time loop. Cool concept, kind of like Groundhog Day on a much like shorter scale. But even still, I couldn't get a good read on like what the thing's gonna play like because I didn't really show gameplay, at least I don't think so. My friend and I actually thought it was gonna be like a Hitman game because the dude who comes to like kill him looks and sounds like Agent 47. That was kind of weird. They had like a CG trailer for Gears, whatever the new one is, to like, here's a new multiplayer mode, and I never understood it when they try to show like a CG trailer to demonstrate how the game plays. Why wouldn't you just show us how the game plays? You know, I thought that was like weird. There was 2 indie games I thought looked really neat. There was one where you're like a deer kind of going through like this abandoned urban environment. That looked like really wonderful. But the one that I thought was like really cool, and I don't see anybody talking about it, was like that one, it looked like a sketchbook, and it was all like hand-drawn animation. That looked really cool. I want to see more of that. And of course they ended it by showing the new Xbox, or at least like the new Halo running on it. This was something I was really excited to see, even if Xbox is not, I'm probably not going to get the new Xbox because I'm a PlayStation guy. but I was interested in seeing what next-gen hardware is going to make graphics look like, and they did confirm it's going to focus on ray tracing and 8K, which is kind of the same things that Sony said the PlayStation 5 is going to focus on, and I'm really glad for that, ray tracing, because I think lighting was a big part of what kind of defined graphics in this generation. I mean, models look better, but it was lighting that really made things look realistic, like with the bump mapping, just the way light reflects off of, like, wet pavement. That's a good example. Like, this was the generation where we finally got wet pavement to look really good. Or like mountains, where like the light would kind of shine on the mountain and it would kind of like spill through every crack and crevice. It would look realistic. It didn't look like light was just shining on a flat texture, because you could program those textures to kind of reflect light in a proper way. Ray tracing is kind of like the next step up from that. For those that don't know, type in on YouTube like ray tracing Minecraft. There's like a video that does a really good job of kind of showing what that thing is, where someone had like Minecraft texture to the ray tracing. Basically, it's just like really realistic reflections of not just like literal mirror reflections, but also how light kind of bounces off of surfaces. So like, say you have a green surface and kind of like a more reflective surface beside it, that surface is going to appear slightly green because of the light overspill. It looks like real life. It's crazy. So I'm really excited. That is going to be the focus of next-gen consoles. 8K is kind of weird, though. I don't think 8K is super duper necessary. I have a 4K TV. I barely even care when I'm playing 4K versus 1080p. I think 8K is just like, who cares? 8K televisions aren't even like mainstream yet. Most people can't even buy those yet. But I kind of see this as future-proofing it, because like they made the 1080p Xbox One and then PS4. When 4K got a little bit more mainstream, they had to make a second iteration, like the Xbox One X, the PS4 Pro. I see this as kind of them being like, okay, we're just going to put that in from the get-go so we don't have to make that second iteration in the event that 8K becomes really mainstream. So I do think that was a good idea in the end. As for the Halo demo, really excited to see this, because I want to see what next-gen graphics are going to look like, and it did look really good, but it didn't look better than what's on current gen, like the best that current gen has right now. Like I'd say Uncharted 4 is probably like one of the best looking games on console right now, and it didn't look better than that, which, little disappointed. It'll probably run better than that, like actually playing it, because like Uncharted 4, brilliant looking game, but it only hits 30 FPS. This will probably be, maybe looks as good as that, but runs better load times, who knows. So yeah, that's pretty much what I felt about Microsoft. I think they were probably the second best conference this year. I always love Phil Spencer. I think he's got a great stage presence. I think he's really good at just kind of being on stage and, you know, hyping people up. There's a clip on Twitter someone took out of context where he just goes, "gaming," and everyone cheers. That's a really funny clip. I mean, he says a lot of things else in the sentence, but it just ends with the word gaming and everyone cheers. But that's I mean, exaggerating, but no, like really, Phil Spencer is good at that. I like watching him on stage, and just like the whole presentation of everything is always top notch. And they actually had a good lineup of software and stuff. So yeah, Microsoft was good. So next up was Bethesda, and this year I think Bethesda was a pretty big clunker for me. I don't really think they had like a whole lot that I was that interested in. I tweeted like jokingly, they're going to start with some self-depreciating joke or self-deprecate. I don't know how that word's said out loud. Self-depreciating joke about how Fallout 76 had a bad launch, and then they're gonna follow that up with more content for it. And that's exactly what they did. Yeah, I wasn't really into that. I never really cared about Fallout to begin with. Definitely don't really care about Fallout 76. They were showing a lot of like Elder Scrolls mobile games. There's like one or two of them. There was at least two of them, yeah. And it made no sense because people in the audience were wiling the hell out at these mobile games. They were like, the audience was freaking out this whole time. And that makes no sense to me, because you remember, like, I think it was Diablo's mobile game, they announced that and then did a Q&A, and literally the first question was, is this a joke? Like, at press conferences, it's filled with people that are kind of a little more hardcore into video games. These are not people that care about mobile games. It didn't make sense, the cheering. I think they either gave everybody in the audience crack cocaine, or they were paid to, like, cheer to make them look good. It had to have been one of those two, because it was, like, and I wasn't the only one that felt this way. Everyone on Twitter was like, what is this audience? They did that thing like 3 times, like that whole like, we love the gamers and the gamers love us and we love gaming and passion and gaming and gamers, and it's like, I never bought into that crap, you know, and I did it like 3 times. I had like 3 of those like tugging your heartstrings documentary type things about the gamers and how much we love the gamers and how much the gamers make us what we are. And like Microsoft did it once, which is fine, but Bethesda did it like 3 times. Like had 3 of those little, I think they were just filling for time, and it just came off to me as like, yeah, okay, Bethesda, we get it. You really love when we love you. Okay. Now that said, there was some things at Bethesda I did think looked really cool. I think the first one was Tango. The creators of Evil Within showed their new game. It was called like Ghostwire Tokyo, I think, and it was just like a CG conceptual trailer. But the concept looks cool. It's like a lot of like disappearances, like ghosts or something. They described it like as like an action horror game, but not in the same way, not like the same survival horror that like Evil Within was. So I'm always down for more like stabs at different ways of doing horror. Some of those transitions in that trailer were like crazy amazing. Like look at this. That's so wow. That's crazy. The director of it, I forget her name, but I know she was an artist on Evil Within, and I think she also worked with Hideki Kamiya on the first Bayonetta. She's got a pretty sizable resume, so I think it's really cool that like Shinji Mikami is kind of like letting the younger bloods who are also really experienced have their first directing role. He did the same thing with Evil Within 2, and a lot of people like that game more than the first one, so I think Mikami's kind of like really good at passing the torch and kind of like being a mentor for like fresher new people. So like, yeah, I think I have faith in this. They didn't show any gameplay, it's probably too early, but like this could be a really cool thing. But probably the biggest thing they showed for a lot of people was the new Doom. Wow, it looks really freaking good. Like, the amount of mobility in this game is just, looks like they're increasing it like tenfold, because that was always like Doom's biggest strength, is how you were a lot more like up and running around than like other shooters that kind of have you taking cover behind like walls and stuff. But Doom is always about like getting up in their face, running around corners, being everywhere at any time. And this game, you got like grappling hooks, you got like a jump like boost dash thing, there's a lot more verticality to the level design. It looks like they're taking Doom's biggest strength and just making it even wilder and stronger, and I am like, yeah, that looks dope. So on to Ubisoft. They were a pretty big clunker for me this year. The only thing they really showed that I was kind of into was Watchdogs Legion, which like looks kind of interesting. I really loved Watch Dogs 2, so I was interested in seeing how they expand the hacking, but I don't know, their whole gimmick is that like you can recruit and play as any NPC. There's not like one main character like there were in the first 2 games, and they did this funny bit where you're playing as an elderly woman who's like an ex-assassin, so she knows what he's doing, but she's kind of like taking her leisurely time doing it, and that was pretty great. But like, I don't know, one thing that worries about me is it looks like there's more focus on the gunplay, because they're like, you can be anybody, so you can play this game however you want, and I'm like, well, I don't know, I'd kind of rather a more narrower vision of what this game should be instead of trying to do everything. I'd rather them just focus on the hacking and take guns out of the equation altogether. Like, I thought Watch Dogs 2 was most fun if you just don't use any guns and rely just on hacking, and you can do it that way, and it's super cool. And there was rumors that you were not going to have guns in this one, but lo and behold, it looks like it can just be a third-person shooter if you want, so I'm definitely not sold on this one yet. I'm gonna need to see more of it before I kinda... Other than that, they mostly just showed like expansions to their existing games. Like they showed a For Honor expansion. I think they showed like a Division 2 as like a new raid or something like that. There's like a bunch of stuff like that. It's like, I don't care that much. They also showed a new Ghost Recon game, which I think is like a big deal. I don't know anything about that series. I've never played one. I don't even know when the last one was. I think it was a while ago though. Some people seem pretty excited about that, so I guess that's pretty cool. They did show this one game that looked really cool. It was like basketball on rollerblades. That looks really fun, but like the problem is that right now it's only on PC and you have to download Uplay to play it. No thanks, so that's okay, I'll wait for it to be on console so I don't have to do that. And then the final thing they showed was, I think it was Gods vs. Monsters. It's like a Greek mythology game from the creators of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. They're talking about how, like, when they were making that game, they really wish they weren't, like, it didn't have to be glued to realism and could just go right into the mythology, and it looks like it's gonna be, like, a little bit more of a cartoony art style than Assassin's Creed, but I'm expecting it to play similarly, but just with, like, more wilder characters like the monsters and myths and stuff. So I think that's honestly like a good idea, because like they did dabble a little bit in mythology. I think you could find like the Centaur or something, but they always like they pass it off like, oh, it's just a glitch in the Animus so we can get away with this. This time they're going all out, and I think that's actually pretty cool. So next up was Square, and of course they start with the Final Fantasy VII remake, which like I've never been crazy into Final Fantasy. I mean, like, I beat Final Fantasy VII in high school, and I do like that game. I think it's a good game. I've just never been one of those, like, crazy fans that, like, super nutso into it, like a lot of people are. But I do admit, like, it looks really good. The stuff they're doing with the battle system looks so interesting. Like, because Final Fantasy 15 was mostly just, like, a hack and slash thing where you could, like, occasionally cast a spell. But this, they're integrating the ATB gauge in a really, really cool way. Basically, you land so many hits, and then you get one turn-based move. So it's like, oh, you land so many hits, okay, now you can throw a fireball or use your materia. Materia's coming back, and I always thought materia was like one of the more interesting systems they've had in Final Fantasy. I mean, I say that, but I haven't played that many Final Fantasy games. I've only played like 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've only played 8 and 9 for like half an hour each. And I played a little bit of 10. But out of those ones I played, I think Materia was probably the second most interesting system they had, like next to the whole Esper thing 6 had. But it's cool that's making a comeback. I mean, it was pretty obvious it should, but they confirmed that. And this new battle system looks like really, really cool. It looks like they're taking like the action of Final Fantasy 15 and also combining it with more traditional turn-based stuff in like a way that's really effective. And I really like the way it looks. They showed some Dragon Quest stuff. There's like that new port for Switch that has like a lot of extra content. I don't really play much JRPGs these days. I find the older I get, the less I'm interested in them. Like firstly, they're way too long. I kind of like to play a lot of shorter games than a couple of long games, but if there's one JRPG I do kind of maybe want to pick up, it's Dragon Quest XI. Like, it actually looks pretty fun. When that comes to Switch, I might check that out. They showed a lot of builders too. I never played the first one, but it looks like they're doing like a lot more with it, which is really cool. I forget who it was, but one of my friends said like it looks like the like 8-bit map from one of the NES games, which is kind of neat because it's blocks, so that makes sense they would do that. That was really cool. They showed a lot of ports as well, which is like kind of whatever, big focus on ports, but it was a lot of ports of like kind of like harder to get games that have all like pretty sizable cult followings. Like there was like The Last Remnant, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, there's a couple of others, Romancing Saga. Like, I think it's really cool they're making like new versions of this because accessibility is important. Like that's always been a big problem with digital distribution. Like take Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, for example. Fantastic game. You can't download it anymore because of licensing issues. I think The Last Remnant, didn't that like get pulled off Steam like a year or so ago? I don't know if that's the game I'm thinking of, but I think it's always cool to like make these games accessible again and maybe give them a fresh coat of paint, higher resolution, whatever. That stuff is always really important. So like, it's a little boring, yawn ports, but like when it's stuff that's harder to get your hands on, I think it is important. And they are giving Final Fantasy VIII that remake, not like remake, but like HD remaster in the same way they did with like 9 and 7, which is really interesting because I heard they lost the source code for that one, which is why they didn't do it. But if you look at it side by side, like the faces and models actually look quite a bit better than they used to, but it still has that PS1 look, just like with higher resolution. I think that's cool. I didn't like 8 when I played it, but I know there are 8 fans out there that are going to be stoked about that, so I think it's cool that they're finally doing that. And of course, they end the thing with the new Avengers game, which is what everybody went there to see. I am fully confident that an Avengers game can work. I've always been one of those people that's like, I don't care about superhero movies, I care about real movies. And then like I kind of fell into the Endgame hype and I marathoned the entire MCU recently, and like, I enjoyed it. There was a couple of movies in that I think were like amazing. Like I think Thor Ragnarok is like a genuinely like well-made and really awesome movie. And I saw Endgame and I thought that was dope. So I'm kind of on the Avengers hype train right now. And like after playing Spider-Man, I'm fully confident that AAA, well-made, genuinely good superhero games can work. Like outside of just Batman Arkham, right? So I'm interested in seeing this because Crystal Dynamics is a competent studio. I think they made like the Deus Ex games. I love the Deus Ex games. They made like Tomb Raider, which I never played any of the new ones, but I hear people like those games a lot too. So like it looks fine. A lot of people are kind of like off-put by them not using the likenesses of the actors that portrayed them in the MCU, which I didn't expect them to, because they would have had to pay like a bajillion dollars to do that. No thanks. And plus, like, these heroes were never those actors. They've existed like a whole century before those actors portrayed them. So I don't know why people are really upset or hung up on that. That's kind of a weird thing. Like Thor's Thor. Thor's not Chris Hemsworth. I don't know why that was so weird to say. One thing, like, I think it looks graphically good, but like I was kind of like, I don't know, I'm not sold on it because they didn't really show much gameplay. They showed like little snippets of what might have been gameplay, but I couldn't get like a good view on what the thing's going to, like, what are you going to be doing in that? Is it going to be primarily fighting enemies? Is it going to be like navigation, like just getting around a city like kind of Spider-Man was? Are you going to be kind of just saving people? I don't really know what you're going to be doing in that game yet. So definitely on board with the concept. I like the way it looks, but I need to see how it plays before I can really have an opinion on it. So last and, well, I was gonna say last and not least, but this is like last and most. Like, these guys took E3 by a freaking mile this year. Nintendo. These are the guys I always look forward to every year. I always look forward most to Nintendo and PlayStation, but PlayStation ditched out on E3 this year, which is kind of weird. Yeah, Nintendo was really good. They had a lot of good stuff. I feel like they had a really good variety, and they just had something for everybody. But most importantly, like, they didn't waste any time at all. It was like kind of a shorter direct than like conferences usually are. They might be like an hour and a half. This was a 40-minute direct, but it was tightly packed with lots of trailers, lots of games, lots of coverage. They didn't linger on one thing too long. One thing I loved, they started with introducing Doug Bowser, because Koizumi, is that his name? He kind of took over after Iwata passed. And now Reggie is retired. Doug Bowser is the new president of Nintendo of America, and I was really curious. I was wondering, like, is he gonna have an on-camera presence like Reggie did? Is he gonna present in the directs like Reggie did? And lo and behold, he is. He's there. They made this really great joke where it's like Bowser comes and he thinks he's like the new president. He wore like a tie and everything, and it was like really great, just like super adorable and hilarious. And it was kind of an obvious joke, but I think they did it in a really lovable way. And yeah, Doug Bowser seems like he has really good on-camera presence. He seemed really chill. He seemed comfortable. He was like, yeah, I'm here, and he had a smile on his face, and he seemed like genuinely likable. So like, I'm really looking forward to seeing more of him. I hope he can kind of like, I mean, he's got really big shoes to fill, but I'm a little bit confident that, like, yeah, he can probably kind of make a name for himself, and it won't be exactly the same as Reggie, but he'll probably be lovable in the same way. So they started with a Smash trailer, and it was the Dragon Quest hero. In my reaction video, I was like, is that Erdrick? I don't know the names, but I just remember She Says from Boundary Break was like so confident it was going to be Erdrick, and there's some leaks that suggested that, and I guess they turned out to be true. Like, it was a Dragon Quest character. Erdrick is one of them. There's like multiple heroes as different skins from a couple of different games. I think that was really cool. Again, I'm not into like Dragon Quest. Like, literally the only Dragon Quest game I've ever played was a little bit of the original on NES back when it was called Dragon Warrior here. And I think, like, while I'm not crazy into the series right now, I kind of do want to play 11, but like, him as a character looks really cool. They had some like RPG menu stuff. I was like, whoa, what is that? They're like, that looks really cool. I love seeing, like, when they have a new character, they do something really unique with it. So even if it's not a character from a series you ever really played or that interested in, the character is at least something that could be interesting to everybody. So they pretty much hit all of the beats I thought they were going to from like their previously announced stuff. Like, they showed more Pokemon, Fire Emblem, Astral Chain, Link's Awakening. But again, they didn't like linger too much on one thing. Like, I remember some other E3s, they would like spend 15 minutes on one game, so if it wasn't a game you cared about, like, it's just you're sitting there and like, But they did a really good job this year. They showed like probably like 2 to 3 minute trailers for each one, and then they have the extended gameplay demonstration at the E3 Live Treehouse, which I think was, I mean, they've always been doing that, but I mean, just kind of spending less time in the actual direct on each thing so we can move on and just kind of get a lot of content. I think that was a really good move, because like, I don't care about Fire Emblem. I didn't have to sit there looking at Fire Emblem for 5 minutes. If somebody doesn't care about Pokemon, they didn't have to do the same, right? So, good move. There's like a Dark Crystal game, and the Netflix logo really threw me off, because I was like, oh, Netflix, so they're putting Netflix on the Switch. No, is Netflix I don't know, it's just like a Netflix published game. Just looks like they took Dark Crystal. Remember that old movie that, like, I know it has a big cult following, but they just made like a weird strategy RPG out of it? I was really confused by that. I was like, what is this? I don't get it. So they showed a lot of Switch ports, which was kind of expected, but it seems they're porting a lot more current gen stuff than last gen, because usually they're porting like 360 games like Saints Row and Assassin's Creed 3, but now they're doing like a lot of stuff I didn't expect to see, like Witcher 3 and like Alien Isolation. They're also porting Super Lucky's Tale, which is a game I really wanted to play, but it was only on Xbox One and Windows 10, neither of which I own. Definitely gonna get that on Switch. I really would love to play that, because it's just adorable platformer. Even if it's not like super great, it's just kind of like like that sort of game is what I'm into. I was really interested in seeing how Witcher 3 was going to stack up against the PS4 version, because like it's kind of weird seeing current gen games that are not made for the Switch, because the Switch isn't nearly as powerful as the PS4. But like all things considered, it looks pretty good. Like for portable Witcher, like resolution's a little lower, the anti-aliasing isn't quite as good, and some of the plants and textures are a little like less plentiful. But like it still looks fine. Like it looks like Witcher. It looks like it plays well. Like it looks like the frame rate was kind of unscathed, and that's like the biggest thing that's important to me, because I'm playing a game, I want it to perform well. If it looks a little worse, that's fine, because I get a portable. So I think they did a really good job with that. Panzer Dragoon's getting a remake. That was like, wow. That's like, that is a classic that nobody can play because emulating Saturn is kind of like weird, I think, and also like the game itself costs like $1 bajillion. Yeah, again, accessibility is important, and plus you're giving it a fresh new coat of paint. Like, wow, I can't believe they're doing something with Panzer Dragoon. I think that's amazing. Also, Secret of Mana Trilogy getting ported, that's a big deal, because a third game, like Sensu Bean 3, whatever it was called, never ever had an official English release in the West, so that's a big deal. And they're also like doing a full-on 3D remake of 3 as well, called Trials of Mana. Somebody told me it's actually a remake of the third game. That's really cool. I know they do still make the Mana games, like there was some on Game Boy Advance and DS that like not a lot of people really I ever hear talk about. I don't even think they were like received terribly well, but like it's cool that they're doing something like next gen with the Mana series, and they're kind of like doing it with one of the more like beloved classic ones. So I think that's awesome that they're doing that. They showed a new Contra game, which was weird. Do you remember when Konami teased a new Contra like ages ago and they never followed it up? I guess that's what this is, but this doesn't speak to me as something that's been in development as a long time. This looks like something they just kind of crapped out their butthole. It looks like Neo Contra. Remember that like crappy PS2 like twin stick shooter that like nobody liked? I played that with a friend and I thought it was like ridiculous, stupid. It was fun. It was actually pretty fun, despite how like not good it is. This looks like the same thing. So like, this looks like something that would be great to play with a friend if you could get it in a bargain bin. So like, that certainly is a interesting, strange thing that exists now. Okay, everyone seems to hate it, but it's like, hey, I'll get it if it's cheap. So now for one of the big boys, Luigi's Mansion 3. I wasn't crazy into that trailer they showed, whereas the trailer voice showing all of the quirky things in this mansion. It's a hotel, and I don't know, I thought it was just kind of lame. And like, they showed a lot of the things you can do, but they didn't really show why it's supposed to be interesting or fun to do those things. You know, it was like, here's all of the features, but I didn't get a good enough look at them to be like, oh, that looks fun. It's just like, that's the thing you can do. But then I watched the full gameplay demonstration. I was kind of iffy on the trailer, but this, it looks really good. Like, it looks really good. Like it really looks like it's kind of capturing the spirit of the original a little better than 2 did. Like, and some of the gameplay stuff they're adding, like the number of ways you can interact with your environment to solve puzzles and stuff looks really cool. Like, you have that plunger, you can stick it on something and then pull it off to like rip stuff open. But mostly just like the settings and the characters. Like, I'm still not huge on the ghost designs, but it looks like they're bringing back portrait ghosts. Like, there's this one ghost, he's a film director, and you gotta like find his megaphone, and then he like sees Luigi, he's like, you have very nice features, want to be in my movie? And the movie's a boss fight where it's like you're on a miniature set, and you're like, it's like a Godzilla parody where it's like a ghost in a Godzilla costume, and Luigi's like, boom, boom. It looks so much fun. It's like the kind of like stupid, quirky, lovable scenarios that like that made me like love the first game so much, because the first game's personality is what made me love it so much. And like, this looks like they're kind of going back and being like, yeah, we're taking some of that personality, we're putting it here. It doesn't feel like, I felt the second game, I think the second game's a better game, but it just felt kind of soulless a little bit to me. I'm probably not describing it well, like some people are gonna be like, it's not soulless. I mean, I describe it better in like the videos I made on that game. If you watch those videos, you know how I feel about it. This new one looks like, I'm really excited to play this because like, it's just the settings. Like, the idea of a haunted film studio is so interesting, and every floor of the it's like a 19 or something like that floor hotel is the mansion this time, and every floor is a new level. So it doesn't look like it's gonna have that like mission by mission structure future. I hear that, like, EGAD doesn't call you all the time. If you need EGAD, you call him instead. I don't know if that's true, that's just what somebody told me. But, like, every floor of the hotel is its own level, which, what does that sound like? The structure of Luigi's Mansion 1, where, like, you go through one area, you beat the boss, and then you go back to EGAD, you kind of have your sit rep, and then you go back, and then you go to the next floor. This is that all over again. The pacing's gonna look like it's really good. And then, like, you fight the portrait ghost, and you get, like, the button, because every floor is missing the elevator button you have to push to go up one floor, so you just gotta beat the boss to get that. And I think that's, like, really, like, just silly and great for Luigi, but, like, yeah, I'm really excited to play this because it actually looks like the Luigi's Mansion 2 I wanted. Like, it looks like it's improving on the gameplay, but it's also kind of like having that personality that I love so much from the first one. So excited to play this. The other big game I was excited for was Animal Crossing. Like, this looks really interesting. It looks like they're doing the complete opposite of what I thought they were gonna do. Like, I thought they were going to expand past the small village formula and kind of go more into like a metropolis setting, like a bigger city, like apartments and stuff. Because it's like, how do you make a new Animal Crossing new again? We got to go bigger and better. No, they're doing the opposite. We're going, like, you're on a desert island, you have nothing, and you have to make the whole village from scratch, and there's, like, a lot of, like, I don't really know if it's an element of, like, survival, but, like, you collect supplies and you, like, craft stuff out of it. Some people are drawing comparisons to Minecraft, which I kind of see, I guess, like, in the way that you have to make the tools. You don't just buy them from, like, Tom Nook. Now you have to, like, get the materials to make your tools, and, like, you can make better versions. You can have, like, a flimsy axe or, like, a strong axe, and I'm guessing the golden tools in this game are just going to be, like, the ultimate indestructible versions you get in, like, the end game. Yeah, this looks really interesting. There's, like, some mechanics, like, you have a pole you can vault over lakes, which, like, remember every time you have to, like, oh, I gotta walk all the way to the bridge, you know, if you don't have many bridges yet. That looks like it's just really a good way to mitigate that little, like, it's like a quality of life improvement. I think this is, like, a really interesting and clever way of, like, making Animal Crossing new, and again, it's the opposite of what I thought they were gonna do, so it's like, it really betrayed my expectations, but I am super into it. It ended up getting pushed back March 2020. It was supposed to come out this year, but Nintendo put out a statement saying, like, you know, the quality of the health of our employees and the quality of the game is kind of what we prioritize most, so, you know, if we gotta delay it, we gotta delay it, which is really commendable because we kind of live in an era where, like, crunch culture is becoming more and more of a thing. Like, bigger companies like Rockstar is like, we have to get it out in this release date, we're gonna work you to death to make that happen. And I feel like when the people are happy, the game's happy. You know, if people are more, like, not, like, sickly and they're, like, working on something, you know, staff morale is good, I think the quality of the game will kind of, like, reflect that. So, you know, a little disappointing I had to delay it a little bit, but it's only, like, half a year. You know, I can wait till March 2020, so I think, you know, fine, that's good. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, No More Heroes 3, that trailer, I was like, who the hell is this dude with, like, the neck brace, and he gets in, like, this like, turbo anime, like, Ultraman armor and, like, flies up, and I was like, this is kind of looking like a Suda game. And then he lands in that pose of the beam saber, and I was like, no way. Armor falls off, it's Travis touchdown. I'm so pumped we're getting a proper third installment. I love the No More Heroes games. I thought Travis Strikes Again was, like, really, like, blah. It was just so, like, lifeless. The gameplay was so, like, it was boring as hell. I like the style and I like the story, you know, the iconic Suda flavor was there, but the game just wasn't. But this is gonna be a true next No More Heroes 3, and, like, I was a little bit worried this was not going to happen because he's like, yeah, if Travis Strikes Again sells well, we can make this. I'm starting to think he only said that so people would buy it because, like, barely any time has passed between that game coming out and this announcement just yesterday. So, like, I don't know if Travis Strikes Again never ever really needed to exist. But hey, No More Heroes 3 is a thing regardless. I'm hella excited for it. So one of the last things they showed, of course, was frickin' Banjo Kazooie and Smash. I lost my goddamn mind. That is one of those, like, pipe dream things I never thought would ever happen. Like Phil Spencer said, yeah, we would like Banjo and Smash, but it's just, like, one of those things that you think is a rule that is unbreakable. Like, they have lots of third-party characters, but this is from a competitor. And, like, you know, Microsoft, Nintendo have been getting buddy-buddy, but it's like, that's business, though. Like, they would never do this. This is such, like, a personal, like, they benefit and we don't kind of level. And it's like, No, they did it. They made it happen. Like when that Jiggy flew across the screen, I literally jumped up and my chair like tumbled back behind me. This is the character that I've always wanted in Smash Bros. Since like more than anybody, because like I really don't think there is a single character that kind of encapsulates or like it summarizes an entire era, an entire chapter of Nintendo's console history better than Banjo. Like when you think of Nintendo 64, if you're listing 5 games, Banjo is going to be one of the first things you think of. Like it is like the only character they do not own that is like that majorly important to Nintendo's history, and he's just been out of their grasp for like 2 decades now. And here he finally, like, we have a game where Mario and Banjo are going to be in the same game, like fighting together, and it's like, oh my god, dude, like, I am so stoked, I'm so pumped, I'm so happy that, like, Banjo was my number 1 character. I always wanted more than, like, anything else, and I still can't believe it. Wow. And then after the Banjo trailer, I was thinking, like, how are they gonna top this? And I guess it was, like, for some people it probably did top that, definitely didn't for me, but it was still, like, really unexpected announcement. They're making a sequel to Breath of the Wild. That's really interesting. The last time they made a direct sequel to a Zelda game was Majora's Mask. Like, it looks like they're kind of reusing assets to kind of, like, shorten development time. I'm wondering, like, is it going to be the same map or, like, a different version of the same map? I really hope they don't reuse the same map, but I mean, like, what I'm excited for is, like, Matt, you remember all of the crazy things you can do in Breath of the Wild? Like, that game was kind of nicknamed Legend of Zelda. I didn't know you could do that. Like, you can put balloons on, like, a raft and, like, whack it with, like, or blow air at it with a Deku Leaf and, like, put a bomb on it. Like, the amount of solutions to every puzzle because of just how much freedom you have and, like, just how the physics and the objects interact with each other is, like, I really think it's unparalleled with anything that is, like, has been really made before. I'm so pumped to see how many more mechanics they're going to put in this thing. Like, yeah, that's what I'm excited about, just seeing how many more things you can do. Because Breath of the Wild, like, blew my mind, like, in that aspect, and this is just, I'm hoping they kind of push that more. I really hope they don't just play it safe and, like, yeah, same exact mechanics, just more story and levels. I really hope they don't do that. I hope they kind of pull a Majora's Mask, like, because Majora's Mask added a lot of new stuff. You had different transformations that gave you completely new abilities. Now, I'm not saying they should do exactly that, but I just want more ways to interact with my environment, because that is what made Breath of the Wild for me. So yeah, that could potentially be, like, incredible if they do it right, which, it's Nintendo. They usually do it right, at least when it comes to, like, Zelda. I mean, they did it pretty right with Breath of the Wild, so let's see. So I guess that's all I really thought of Nintendo and E3 as a whole. Like, I definitely think Nintendo was the best one. Again, like, they just did a really good job of, like, keeping everything compact. So they had, like, a lot of stuff. They didn't linger on anything too long. Even, like, the on-screen camera talking segments. Like, I remember one year, like, they spent so much time on, like, the person, like, hey, we made the yarn Yoshis and this is cute, really put all our heart into this. Is like, yeah, well, it's endearing, but you're also spending 15 minutes on Yoshi. This is like, it was just bam, 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 they got everything out. It was just hammering one thing after another, just, like, nailing it, and I thought that was awesome, because especially since they have the longer presentations where they're just showing the games live afterwards, and those are also archived on Nintendo's channel, so you can go to, like, any game you want to see more of, you can see more of if you want to, instead of having to sit through the whole thing. I think Nintendo handled it incredibly well this year, not just because of the really strong lineup of software, not just because of the stuff that, like, I was personally invested in, not just because they had Banjo and Smash Bros, but just the presentation itself was really well delivered. So yeah, I thought it was a pretty, like, average E3 overall, because again, I think Microsoft and Nintendo were the only ones that had, like, good presentations. Everything else was kind of, like, blah or a little underwhelming. But hey, the good stuff was pretty damn good. Like, the highs were really high this year, even if the lows were a little lower than usual. So I think I was really happy by the end of it. So yeah, thanks for listening to me ramble about stupid ass E3. See ya!